Welcome Management 6133 students. This lecture is your lecture from week 1 module, and it covers the introduction to business processes. So what we'll be covering in this lecture is we'll be talking about traditional functional organizational structures and why this is commonly used, but how this also causes problems. We'll also be looking at key business processes that are typical of most organizations. We'll also be discussing how most processes cover and use many of the functions in an organization, and we'll talk about how organizations should adopt integrative perspectives with regards to business processes, and then we'll take a look at Global Bike Incorporation's organizational structure and do a brief discussion on global bikes, as we'll be using this case throughout this course. So most organizations organize themselves by functions. So a lot of companies have accounting departments, human resources departments, engineering departments, marketing departments. So it is a very common way to organize a company. And it's nice because different departments perform specialized tasks. So if you're in the accounting department, you only have to do accounting. And you're going to do accounts payable, accounts receivable, but it's easy to know your job and know what to do. However, most companies perform processes, and these processes use multiple functions. So it's, if we're buying something, we're going to use our purchasing department to buy something. We're going to use our warehousing department to receive those goods. Our accounting department is going to pay that supplier. So many departments will perform that function. So a functional structure is very common because it's easy for each department to have specific responsibilities for a set of closely related activities. So because it's so easy to know what you have to do, it really helps companies who are faced with challenges and growth. So the challenge with organizing your company by functions and departments is it creates the silo effect. And the silo effect is where you focus on functional objectives. So I'm just focusing on accounting. I'm just focusing on buying. I'm just focusing on producing things. And I'm not looking at the overall process. I'm just focusing on what I need to do, and I'm optimizing my specific functional goals. So if I'm a buyer, I'm just focusing on buying goods at the lowest price. I'm not focusing on the overall process of getting goods that have good quality. I don't want too many goods that I'm overwhelming my warehouse, those sorts of things. So when you're looking at processes, you need to have an overall coordination of what's going on. In a functional structure where we have silo effects, the downfall is people don't understand what happens before what they do and what happens after. So they lose sight of the big picture. The silo nature of departments and cross-functional natures of processes are at odds with one another. So if our overall goal is to provide goods and services at a low cost, if we're buying things at a really low cost but in bulk amounts, we're having to have huge warehouses. So maybe, yes, we're reducing their buying costs, but we're increasing our storage costs. So it's really important that organizations look sideways and view the entire process that involves a bunch of functions. So we need that view, process view in understanding the end-to-end to understand how the entire enterprise system works. So it helps businesses manage their processes efficiently. So we want enterprise systems that help us see what everybody's doing and how we interact. So enterprise systems, so this course you'll be learning how to use SAP, which is an enterprise system. So it's really hard in this day and age to manage companies that have divisions across the world. So to understand what our division in Germany is doing and what our division in the US is doing, we need modern technology to be able to do that and be able to see what's going on. And enterprise systems not only help you to see things geographically and across different, all across the world, they also help to support the end-to-end processes. So many companies have different software systems for different functions. So they maybe have a system for their accounting, or a system for their buying, or a system for their design. Enterprise systems do all of that, so we can see the whole end-to-end process. And the benefit of using these enterprise systems is companies have seen increased profitability, they increase productivity, and it gives the companies their competitive edges. So we'll be using Global Bikes across this course as a case. And in Global Bikes, they buy components from Italy, they produce bikes in Germany, and they sell bikes in the US. So having an enterprise system that sees all those different processes across the world really helps to increase an organization's profitability. So when we're talking about business processes, these are a sequence of tasks or activities that produce a desired outcome. So different processes are things like buying, selling, making, storing, planning our materials. So when we're talking about buying, we could call it procurement. Fulfillment is selling, production is making. So these are some key processes. And most processes have something that triggers them. So somebody triggers a purchasing department to buy something. And then there's a bunch of different steps we have to do to buy something and receive that material, which is the resulting outcome. So one thing we have to realize is that processes are interrelated. So if I buy something, when I receive it, it's stored in a warehouse. So it's interrelated with the warehousing and inventory management process. Again, when I sell something, I have to take it out of the warehouse and I have to ship it. When I make something, somebody has to buy the material to make that, and somebody has to store that raw material and finished goods. So again, one of the processes, key processes, is buying. When we're buying, there's a bunch of different activities involved buying materials to make products or deliver services. So when we buy something, again, we need warehousing to store the material, we need purchasing to buy it, and we need accounting to pay our suppliers. Another key process is production, so making things. And again, this involves the buying materials to make the products or deliver services. So we need warehousing to store our raw materials and finished goods. We need production to make the things. And so again, production involves a bunch of different functions. Fulfillment, which is selling, are all the steps involved in selling and delivering products to organizations and customers. So in the selling function, we have to efficiently process a customer order, which may be a purchase order. We involve warehouse because they need to prepare the order and send the shipments to the customer, and the customer makes payment. So we have accounting involved in the selling function. So inventory and warehousing management is involved in all of those steps, right? We use warehousing to store and track materials. We store the materials from the vendor and provide it to production. And from production, we put it back into the warehouse, and storage and movement of materials to our final customer. So not only are we buying, making, and selling, usually you'll have equipment in your company. If you're a production company, you'll have machines to make your products and ship your products. So another process is looking after that equipment. Performing maintenance is one of the things you may have to do. So an enterprise system helps you look after asset management. When you're selling things, usually there's customer support. So, honoring your warranties or returns. So these are another process that enterprise systems help with. And any company or organization has projects going on. So a project could be implementing SAP, setting up a new production line. So these are projects, and an enterprise system has project management tools within it. All of these processes are integrated. So as we said, the main three processes in any company is buying, making, and selling. But all these other processes support buying, making, and selling. So we need accounting to pay our suppliers. We need accounting to bill our customers. We need, to look after our assets. We need human resources to hire and fire people. We need warehouses to warehouse our raw materials and finished goods. So all of these processes are integrated. So as I said, in this course, we're going to be using SAP, and we're going to be using a case with Global Bicycle Incorporated, so GBI, and every week we are going to be focusing on a different process, whether it's buying, so the procurement process, making, so the production process, selling, accounting, warehousing. So every week we will focus on a different process, and we're going to be using this fictional company, Global Bikes. So it's really important this week that on Fanshawe Online in week 1, you read the Global Bikes story so you get a real good understanding of what the company is about, because we'll be using data throughout this course to use SAP and do these processes. So just a background about Global Bikes. Our fictional company was founded in 2001, and they were the merger of 2 bicycle manufacturers. One of the manufacturers was in the US and one was in Germany. And Global Bikes has 3 lines. Their first line is deluxe and professional touring bikes. Their second one is men's and women's off-road bikes. And their third line is bike accessories, such as helmets, shirts, water bottles, protection gear. One thing you should know is Global Bikes has 2 manufacturing facilities, one in the US and one in Germany. They employ 100 people globally, and they use SAP S/4HANA to support all their processes. So you can also see they have in the US, they have distribution centers in Miami, San Diego, and Dallas, and they have a manufacturing plant in Heidelberg, Germany, and a distribution center in Hamburg, Germany as well, and a manufacturing plant in Dallas. So again, make sure you read the Global Bikes story, which is posted on Fanshawe Online, to get a real good background of what the company is. So that covers our Chapter 1 information. To get ready for next week, make sure you install SAP GUI onto your computers, and there is information on the Week 1 module on Fanshawe Online. So I hope this lecture helped you understand what business processes are and gives you a good introduction of what we'll be covering throughout the course when we'll be looking at each process individually. Have a great week.